Friends, I just made a terrible discovery. I have 10 gallons of tomatoes that I froze in the fall that have gone moldy. They're frozen right now, but at some point this winter, they definitely thawed at least once. I have a whole freezer full of rotten tomatoes, which is so devastating. It was a lot of work to put them all up. I always freeze my tomatoes as they're coming out of the garden. Sometimes I core them, sometimes I don't. I just wash them and put them in gallon bags, and then I throw them in the freezer and process them once I have time, because I never have time as they're coming out of the garden. I do this, one, to help with time. I also do this to help with taking the skins off and also getting rid of some of the liquid. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to use these. This is in our freezer that's in our garage. I also have another freezer, a large deep freeze that I'm going to go check right now. I don't know if there was a power outage or if just this freezer malfunctioned, but I'm going to go check in that other freezer right now to see if those tomatoes are good. We have used other things out of that freezer, so it should be okay, but I'm going to have to scrap all these gallons of tomatoes. So this is what we're dealing with, a bunch of bags of bad tomatoes. I also had some peach juice in here, as well as some peach scraps. I was going to make some peach scrap jelly, which didn't happen. I also see that I have a bunch of butter in here, which I was wondering where that went, so I'm probably going to have to scrap that now too. So kind of a disappointing day. We're going to go check the other freezer and we'll see what's in there. We're going to dig in here and see how many bags of tomatoes we can find. I think I put the majority of my tomatoes into that other freezer, which is just so disappointing. Here's one. I do have a ton of goat's milk in here as well. My goats should be back in milk in the next few weeks. What I'm actually going to do, I think, is thaw some of this and use it with our pig feed. I think that'll be a good boost for them. And I'm definitely not going to need as much as I have. I had planned over the winter that I was going to really crank out a bunch of goat milk lotion and goat milk soap. I did a bunch of lotion. I've really dialed in my recipe on the lotion, but I didn't make as much goat milk soap as I expected to make, and I'm not selling it yet, so I don't think I'm going to need this. So we can repurpose that for something else. We're going to have pork coming soon because we just got our pigs. We'll be butchering them in September, so a couple months away, but we still do have quite a bit of pork I'm seeing in this freezer from the last time we butchered pigs, so we're going to have to start eating through that. This freezer needs a proper clean out, and I'm actually thinking about doing a little challenge for us to eat out of the freezers only for the next few weeks so that we can see what we can get through before the garden season really ramps up. So that's disappointing. We had only 5.5 gallon bags of tomatoes in this freezer. They look fine. I don't think it was like a power outage or something like that. I think it was that freezer that malfunctioned on its own. So luckily these are okay. So I'll be preserving these. I had big plans. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to preserve as much as I had planned to. So we'll go inside, start thawing these, and see what we get to today. I'm going to put these in the sink to thaw out. I had planned to do this over 2 days, thinking that I was going to have a lot more than I actually have. So I think I'll maybe do some this afternoon, but I might just leave everything till tomorrow. We'll have to see where we are this afternoon. I had planned to do pizza sauce, enchilada sauce, barbecue sauce, tomato butter, and then if I had anything left over, I was going to do some pasta sauce. Obviously, I'm not going to have enough to eat probably even half of that, so I'm going to prioritize. We eat a lot of pizza, so I think that'll be number one, and then maybe some enchilada sauce. This has been a very disappointing discovery today. Certainly not what I had expected, but it is what it is, and we can't do much about it, so we'll just preserve what we have left. From these 5-gallon bags, I got 19 pounds of tomatoes. I had to make a decision about what I really wanted to make because that was only going to get me one recipe. So I decided to do enchilada sauce. Initially, I had thought I would do pizza. We do pizza night often here, and I go through a lot of pizza sauce. But thinking about it, pizza sauce is only less than $1 a can. So it made more sense to me to make something that's a little bit more expensive. So that's what I decided to go with. I'll take all of my tomato scraps to the pigs later this afternoon. This is why I like freezing my tomatoes. One, the peel comes off much easier, and two, look at all of the water that I don't have to boil out of there. This recipe calls for 20 pounds of tomatoes, so I'm ending up a little bit short on that. Whew. I've been trying hard to not do that, but I definitely just squirted that all over the place. When I'm throwing these in freezer bags, I do try and take the core out. It just makes it easier at this stage to get it quickly into the pot. But sometimes I don't do that. Dan, I don't think you're gonna like any of that. I don't see them outside. They must be inside for a bit of a siesta. Oh, I hear them though. Hi, piggies. I have snacks for you. This mesh fence that I got works way better to keep them in. They haven't escaped since. I like to prep peppers in the fall. I just dice them all up and throw them in bags in the freezer. And then we can use those all year. Okay, we've been simmering for a little bit here, so I'm going to very carefully blend this up a little bit with the immersion blender. This is still too gritty for me. I don't enjoy this texture, so I'm gonna run this through my food mill. This was my grandma's food mill. I remember a lot of fall days running apples through this to make applesauce. My grandparents always had a big garden, and I remember helping them in the garden when I was little. And then when I got a little bit older, helping my grandma in the kitchen to preserve things. I always loved when I'd get off the bus in the afternoon and you could smell the pickles, whatever she was pickling that day. You could smell it before you even got in the house. I lived growing up beside my grandparents, so we lived sort of, I guess modern day you'd call it a family compound, but we just lived essentially on the same property as them. So I saw my grandparents every single day. They both were old enough to know what was going on during the Depression, so they passed a lot of those traits down to me. A lot of preserving, a lot of being frugal. That's how I grew up. We don't have Wi-Fi in our barn. It's not close enough to the house, and so I can't have cameras out there, which, since this is our first kidding with our goats, makes me kind of nervous. So we picked up some baby monitors, which are working pretty well. And I can hear the goats yelling right now for supper. It's not quite time yet, but I think they think it is. I was out there earlier to give those snacks to the pigs and kind of threw everybody off, I think. So we're on to day 2 here. That was very unintentional. I had planned to get this all done in one day, but right after I used the food mill, we ended up getting a hay delivery. So that sort of made this take a back burner. Okay, so I reduced the sauce by not quite half, maybe like a third. So these are going to come to a boil. This is already boiling. And then we'll be able to put everything into the boiling water without risking cracked jars. I have had cracked jars before and it's never fun. And then I just like to use a wooden skewer to get all the air bubbles out, just wipe the rim. Put a new lid on. Okay, so we started out with 19 pounds of tomatoes. I did boil it down and reduce it quite a bit. And this has gotten us 7 pints. I do have a little bit left in here, maybe half a pint. I'll just stick that in the freezer probably and use that next time I'm making a meal with these, just to boost it a little bit. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. And if you want to follow along, I'm on TikTok and Instagram at Haylight Homestead. 7 pints of enchilada sauce going into our pantry, and a freezer I need to deal with. We'll get into that soon.